Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in today's video I wanted to actually show you the little trick I used where I changed various objects into what seemed like a wormhole. This is something I've discovered completely by accident while playing around in Space Engine, and today I just wanted to show you how you can do the same and how you can actually change your entire solar system or your entire galactic system into a bunch of wormholes. Anyway, welcome to What the Math. And I figured we're going to be using Saturn for this experiment because I just actually wanted to see what would happen if you changed Saturn into a wormhole, and also if you changed its moons into little wormholes as well. Let's actually discover what happens. So, how do we do this? It's really simple actually. In Space Engine, you're allowed to modify pretty much any object, but the only thing is that there's no tutorial for any of the modifications, so you need to do this kind of by, trial and error or looking up things online. If you press Shift F2, you'll get this editing window, and here you can actually modify the type of an object. So this right here is Prometheus, one of the moons of Saturn, and we can go ahead and change it into pretty much anything. We can even change it into a spacecraft, but we are going to look at a star. So right now it actually became a tiny star. You can kind of see something has changed. We're going to approach it just to see what's happening there. Oh, it's actually interesting. It turned into Planemo. Very unusual. That's probably because its mass is not big enough. But we're not interested in changing it into a planet or a Planemo or even a star. We want to turn it into a wormhole. Now, this is when you actually need to do a bit of studying and research and find out what these objects are called in terms of spectrum. If you ever watch any of my previous videos, you may have noticed that I talked about some objects in terms of X, Y, and Z, or any other alphabets, like for example, O. O stars are the bright blue stars you see in the back right there. So like for example, if I click on this star right there, it's pretty bright, and it's a B-type blue subgiant. Any of these bright stars will be either B or A types. These are usually the brightest. This one is a white subgiant, and anything that's called a hypergiant might even be an O star. So the alphabet here kind of describes the type of a star and also shows you how bright they are. If we just click on this asteroid and now change it into, for example, an X-type, it's going to become a black hole. It's a tiny black hole. But what if you change it into Z? And this is when I was just playing around and accidentally typed Z instead of X, and look at that. It changes into a wormhole. It's a wormhole called Prometheus. It's pretty interesting, pretty intense, pretty insane actually. And you can kind of see that it is actually quite different from a black hole. So here you see the inside, you see the other side of the location, the other side where the other mouth comes out, similar to the movie Interstellar. If I change this into an X-type, it'll become a black hole. And you can kind of see nothing because it's actually relatively small. And right in the middle there, if I increase its mass and also its radius, you might see that there's a really dark spot in the middle. That's the actual black hole. That's the event horizon that doesn't let even the light escape. But we want to change it into Z-type because that's what this video is about. It's about wormholes. And wormholes are different. So here's our first wormhole around Saturn. Let's maybe increase its radius a little bit more just so that we get some really cool effects going here as it orbits around Saturn. I'm going to increase just a little bit more actually, and let it orbit around and see what it actually creates here. So this is a pretty cool looking effect. So there's your wormhole around Saturn, and we're going to change Saturn into a wormhole too in a second just to see what it looks like. But right now it actually is a pretty interesting, pretty cool effect. So this is maybe like the future of humanity, when we'll be able to establish these wormholes around various objects in space, have them orbit around the object, and basically just pass through them to come out somewhere completely different instantly, without traveling at all. This is still theoretical, but according to Einstein's theory of general relativity, and according to a lot of other physicists, this is totally possible. Just we need to find a way to kind of maintain or keep this entrance open. having, like I mentioned before in the previous video, having these two throats might not be that difficult, but having these two mouths open, like I mentioned in the previous video, is not very difficult, but keeping the throat open is a challenge because it requires some exotic matter that we don't really know nothing about, or anything about. Double negative. Anyway, time to change Saturn. Let's see what happens if you change Saturn into a wormhole. Slow down time just a little bit. And I think the rings will probably disappear. I don't think rings are going to be part of it, but you never know. Here we go. Star. And this is also going to be a Z-type. And wow, it's gone. It's gone forever. If we decrease the radius here. Yep, it's just a big wormhole with no rings at all. Very unfortunate. I was hoping the rings would stay. And so what we've created here is a pretty interesting environment with various moons orbiting around this very large wormhole in the middle, a smaller wormhole orbiting around it. It's kind of difficult to see, so maybe if I come in front of a bright object like our sun, you might be able to see it a little bit better. And unfortunately, even the sun doesn't provide enough light for us to actually be able to extinguish these wormholes. So maybe, just maybe, this is actually why we haven't been able to find any so far. It's difficult to see them, it's difficult to detect them, and they're practically more invisible than black holes. And because they don't produce as much energy as black holes would, it would be almost impossible to see them. But maybe, just maybe, wormholes are an explanation to the mysterious dark matter. This is actually one of the best, or one of the more interesting speculations about dark matter and its existence. So that's essentially how you could create your own wormholes in Space Engine yourself. And you can pretty much change any system into a system of these beautiful orbiting wormholes. I did this previously in another video where I did the supermassive black hole in wormholes, and it actually crashed my game a few times because it was getting to the point where my processor couldn't handle this. Too much simulationing. But this is a pretty cool effect. These two wormholes kind of blending into each other. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with someone who enjoys watching space stuff and wants to learn through video games. In tomorrow's video, you might learn something else, so don't forget to come back tomorrow and watch the next video. I'll see you guys later, space out, and as always, bye-bye. And let's see if we can navigate our way into one of these wormholes to finish this video. Oh, I missed it. It's a little bit easier to do if you do this manually. So here we go, and last attempt, entering wormhole. Now you can actually see the other side of the galaxy from here. Whoa, that was cool. We just came out of it as well.